I am Kara, this is Susie, and this is Timothy. This is the year of 2031, and here we are on Mars. You just got out of your spaceship, and we are very excited for you to be here because we have a few things to show you. Basically, what we've done over the few years that we've been here, it's been about 5 years we've been here since we moved up here from Earth, and our families have just adjusted to living here, and now we are the Martians. And we'll explore our story later. But what we've asked you to come here today is so we can talk about this man, Ray Bradbury. Now, while we were exploring on Mars, we found this book, and it's kind of rare because our books have been destroyed and novels and such have been destroyed over the past few years, as some of you know, due to them expressing ideas that we do not accept anymore. And we found these chronicles, and this man, he wrote them before it happened, and now that from what we have seen, the stuff that's actually happened, and he predicted the things that happened to us, and he predicted our story. So we're here to share you not only his story, but our story, because they're the same. Now he chronicled not only our past, but he chronicled the way he thought it was going to happen, and actually did. And there are many chronicles, and they basically go to the colonization of Mars and what we see has happened through these years. And first we see that in January 1999, an Ohio rocket was launched to Mars, and it was so hot that it left a temporary summer there. So we can see how this technology has affected the people around them. And in the next month, Eula, who is a Martian woman, and as some of you may have heard stories, Martians used to have brown skin and yellow eyes, and she has these dreams of this man coming on Mars and landing on his rocket, and his name was Nathaniel York. And her husband refuses to believe this and thinks that she's ill, so he takes her to town. And after they arrive, she has even more dreams. And this time, though, her dream tells her the specific time that this man will be there, and she wants to go explore, but her husband says no and goes out hunting with his gun, and she hears 2 shots. And from what we can infer about this, we know that the 2 men were shot. So that was the first expedition to Mars, and from what we know, Yule's husband Yule shot them. And then continuously we see Martians begin to hum and sing Earth tunes, and this is because of their telepathy, and they can sense these these feelings and these words from the Earthmen. So this is the telepathy that the Martians have. And then the following morning, Captain Willems and his crew arrive on Mars.
So this would be the second expedition on Mars.
And this time, everyone's refusing to believe that they're Earthmen. They come and they're expecting this big
huge welcome, like they want a celebration. We're the first people on Mars. Like, we should have a welcome.
And no one's welcoming them. Right. No one's welcoming. They think they're crazy.
Ignoring them, and they're just
so then they're sent to they're sent to a place. They're not told it's an asylum, but it is an asylum. They're sent to an asylum with Martians, and they're doing all these weird things, and they're all like having hallucinations. And after 4 hours in the asylum, after they realize they're in an asylum, Mr. XXX arrives. And he's fascinated with them because he says it is the greatest use of hallucinations he has ever seen in his entire life. And then the men from this expedition, Captain Williams' expedition, go out to the rocket and
prove to him that, hey, we're real, we're here, so accept it.
But he still thinks they're hallucinations, and he is he's crazy about this because of how they physically had this hallucination of a rocket ship. And basically, he kills them because he thinks they're hallucinating and they're crazy. And then
he expects them to disappear as soon as he shoots them. But the strange thing is they don't disappear. And once he shoots them, he believes that he's crazy himself and goes to shoot himself.
So he kills himself. And then we see the 3rd expedition come into play, and
we have a short video.
We have had time on Mars to sort of explore these ideas and find different places to shoot, and we decided to do a little clip for you guys. So we'd like to watch to that first, and we'll explain to you what happened in case.
Wait a minute.
And this is the third expedition. This is their third.
Alright, so we'll play that.
Why does everything look like Earth? Shouldn't be that way.
John!
What are you doing here? I thought you were dead.
John, come on, Mom's waiting inside. Lunch is ready. Come on. Come on. There's Mom.
What is this?
Edward, you just in time for lunch. I made your favorites. Come on in. Yeah, let's go. Come on. So how was lunch and dinner?
It was very good, but I'm confused right now.
Oh,
How are you alive?
it doesn't matter. We're here together. We're happy. That's all that matters.
I just don't understand it anymore. How can my family be alive? I guess I've got to turn all the time to bed. Wait, what if this could all be a lie? I don't know. I better go get a glass of water.
Where are you going?
Thirsty.
You're not thirsty.
Yes, I am.
You're not thirsty.
Yes, I am.
You're not thirsty.
Yes, I am.
So that was the third expedition. And in case you didn't catch it, what happens is a crew of 16, including Captain John Black, comes to Mars. And they are surprised because it looks like a regular 1920s town. And all of a sudden, some of the crew members start and they're like, oh wait, there's my grandma. And
They
start
recognize their family members and when they're supposed to be dead.
these are people that have died.
Yeah.
So then Captain John Black is really skeptical. He's walking, and all of a sudden he sees his brother, and he's like, that's my brother. And all of a sudden he forgets about everything. He goes, he has lunch, and he has a fun time with his family, just enjoying it. But when he goes at night he thinks about this. He's like, how have they been doing this? So he thinks about how they got to access their minds. And what he thinks is that he was older than all the rest of the crew members, so that the Martians access his brain for the look of the town, and access everyone's brains to see people that have died, to create this illusion. And then he gets up to go get a glass of water, but then his brother, who's actually a Martian, kills him
And
before he reaches the door. And a little bit later we see 16 coffins going out. So that's basically the premise of that.
That's the third expedition.
Okay. The next chapter is And the Moon Be Still Is Bright, and we also have a clip of that. We're trying to choose the most important chronicles and the ones that really define our history.
Claire, you're not good at this.
That's actually a Susie.
Come on,
Susie.
Bender, come on! Bender, come on! Party!
No, this is so disrespectful of Mars. Humans ruin everything. I'm going to go explore and see the beauty of Mars. Mars.
Spender's been gone for over a week now. Half the crew's dead. We have to go after him.
I'm gonna blow his brains out, mark my words.
Pardon this interruption. Attention all varsity track athletes. Practice is canceled for today. Please report back to your classes. Distance runners should see Coach Good for the personal workout at the end of the day. Thank you.
Hello, Spender. What do you think's going on here? Why have you killed half our men?
Just because Earth people are so disrespectful, we ruin everything. Whenever we take over a place, it just gets ruined.
I understand your point, but you know I can't let this go. I'm done. I'm going to have to kill you, Spender. And I must admit, I'll give you time to run, but that's it.
And the movie still.
Yes, that was In the Movie Still Is Bright. And again, if you didn't catch it, a basic summary of this is that this crew like comes to Mars, and they're celebrating because we've reached Mars, and the other expeditions, as we explained, have been killed, many of the men, so no one knows what happened to them. So they're celebrating, and there's this man Spender, and he is disgusted with what has been happening, with that they're partying and they're destroying the landscape, and they're just taking over Mars. And basically his philosophy, and we'll explore this more later, is that people just come to new lands, for example the Americans, and they just destroy it. They don't care what's there, they just destroy it and think of just themselves. And he's really disappointed. And Captain Wilder, he goes and he understands and he sympathizes with his ideas, but he does nothing about it. And we think that represents many people, that you know something's wrong, but you don't do anything about it. So that's the premise of that show. Okay.
So the next chapter.
Now, as we see with the colonization of Mars, there are more and more people arriving because they see the possibility of work. And they're very lonely because there are not that many there. And one man, Benjamin Driscoll, he takes the landscape and he starts planting seeds everywhere. He goes on his bike and just lays seeds everywhere, and nothing's happening. Then one day it rains, and then the morning after, all of a sudden everything's green.
And this is because Mars didn't have enough oxygen for
Fulfill-
life. Yes.
fulfill like human life. Okay. And then it is now February 2002, and rockets are frequently landing, and towns are starting to appear. And these towns resemble American towns, basically. So now Mars is becoming like a mini Earth, like a mini America. And after like a few months, there's one man, Tomas Gomez, and he's on his way to a party, but decides to stop at a filling station. And he talks to this old man. He's like, yeah, I love Mars. I hope that's different from Earth. And that kind of old guy that's just sort of hopeful. And then he parts from him, and then stops for some coffee, and this weird like green man, Martian shows up in this weird vehicle, and they're talking. His name's Muhe Ka, and they're talking, and they're discussing. Oh, look, yeah, I'm going to that party over there, and that's what Muhe Ka says. And the guy's like, those are all ruins over there. What are you talking about? So then they're really confused, and then they try to touch each other, and they just go through each other. And what this shows is the element of time travel, and that they basically agree that they had traveled through time, and we can basically guess that Muhe Ka was from the past of when the Martians were plentiful and were inhabiting Mars, but now the Earthmen are dead. Okay, and now it's October 2002, and now city people are starting to move in again, just the colonization of Mars. And just note that they're only coming from America. They're not coming from anywhere else at this point. And then lumber begins to come in, so towns are being built. And then one scary thing is children that arrived would go to these like old Martian ruined towns, and they would stomp on the dead bodies of the Martians, and they were all killed by chickenpox. So we can guess that humans brought the chickenpox to Mars and killed all the Martians. And they would make the black leaves, which were like their remainings, and they would fly up and use their bones to play music. But soon enough, they knew this was going to be over because people were going to come in and burn these towns.
And this is just another sign of disrespect to the Martian towns and the Martian on Mars.
Okay. Now, there's another chapter in which this back on Earth now, and there's a man named Mr. Teese. I don't know if I can pronounce that. Mr. Teese, and they're discussing this new wave of like stream of like African Americans, and they're going through the town with all their belongings and ready to hop on a rocket to Mars that they personally built. And this angers Mr. Teese because he has his own workers. They have contracts, they owe him money, but somehow each of his workers get out of that. But the one man, Silly, he
works for Mr. Teese.
and he has a contract, and he's like, oh no, you can't leave, you have to work for me. But then the men that are with Mr. Teese decide that, okay, whatever, just let him go, we'll do the work. And Silly shouts out a remark, and it angers Mr. Teese. So he gets in his car, like runs after the black stream, because there was a stream of like black people just going through the town on the way to Mars. And they were leaving their belongings in a path, and he was trying to run over them angrily, and he crashed his car. So again, now we see a new wave of people coming. Now we are not sure if they ever make it to Mars, but we can assume that they do.
And in August of 2005, elderly people are also arriving on Mars.
And then the places are being named with new American names. So we see this disappearance of the Mars culture and everything, and just boring names like Spencer Town. They named it after one from the expeditions. So okay, now we have another chapter, and it's entitled Usher 2.
These pictures here resemble what goes on in the scene.
Mr. Stengel, I'm Mr. Garrett from Moral Climates.
I was wondering when the more clients people would get here.
Yeah, we got here last week. This haunted house needs to come down. I can have it destroyed by supper time.
Would you rather come in though and see what you're going to destroy? Why should
I suppose that wouldn't hurt.
That's a rocket going to Mars.
It is so just terribly creepy. It must come down.
What about this mechanical leap I have here? This guy's
Hi. But a lifelike ape.
Stephen, we had a problem.
What's wrong?
I went down to the incinerator to check after we burned Mr. Garrett's body, and there are mechanical little metal parts there. You know what that means? He was a robot, and we sent a robot back. So hopefully they won't be able to tell the difference. But that's the problem.
Yeah, now the police are going to be coming in. Now all my guests are here.
We have to be able to send Mr. Garrett back. Let's hope.
I hope my guests are enjoying my house.
Stendhal! I just saw the strangest thing. I was strangled by an ape and then stuffed up a chimney. It was so realistic. No!
Sure.
First, let me show you my face.
Alright.
I finally have put you behind this wall, Mr. Garrett. Now,
So
do
clever.
you recognize this story? Do you know why I've done this to you?
No! Let me out!
It is because you have destroyed so many books of the great works, such as that of Poe. Now, if you do recognize this story, I do wish you to say these one last words.
What?
Say, for the love of God, Montressa.
What? No!
Say it.
No!
Now.
No!
Say, for the love of God,
For
Montressa.
the love of God, Montresor!
So what happens in this chapter is there's this man, William Stendhal, and he's created this
Huge house.
huge house, and we have a picture of it back there.
Back there, that would be Usher 2.
We recreated that using Martian stone. Yeah. And basically what happens here is a man named he's a man named Garrett, and he comes in and he's like complaining. He's complaining that it must be put down, and then they actually discovered that he was actually a robot, and that they destroyed and sent a robot back. And this huge big mess. But really, what the theme of this little chronicle is that the great works of like Poe and other people have been destroyed due to they like went against what their beliefs were at the time. So that's what Stendhal was trying to envision, and he used Poe's works to kill all these guests that from moral climates that live in these stories.
Okay, the next chapter in Ray Bradbury's book is The Martian, and we have another clip to show you.
Did you hear that noise? That's right. I thought I heard something.
What are you talking about? How long did I?
All right, I'm gonna go take a look. It's a figure. I think I see someone outside.
Come upstairs, don't be silly.
All right. Tom, is that you? It is this, I leave the door open. You can come on inside later if you feel like.
Alright.
Wait, Tom, is that you? What are you doing here?
He's always been here. What are you talking about?
Dad, I'm always here. Me, Tom.
Hi, Dad.
How old are you? I'm confused now. Why are you here?
I'm here. We're all happy. Mom's happy. That's all that matters, right, Dad?
Hey, I think we should go to town tonight.
No,
We haven't been there in such a long time.
I don't want to go.
It's such a
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to.
Tom,
No,
you still love to go to town on Saturday nights.
No.
Come on, Tom.
Don't be silly,
Let's
we're
go.
going.
It's such a fine night. But where did Tom go?
I got to town here. I just lost sight of him. I'll go try and look.
Okay.
Hi there. Have you seen my son?
Oh yeah, I had. He's running around a while ago.
Thank you.
Oh.
Jane. Where are you from?
Well, I don't, sorry, but you know what's weird? You know that girl who was supposed to die a long time ago? Her family found her again.
Well, that's weird. Is that you?
I don't know who you are. Please leave.
Please go with me.
No, I found another family to please.
But, son, I know you're not actually Tom, but you're making your life so happy. Your mother, think of her. Think of how much it would hurt her again to see you gone.
No, this family loves me though. They need me. I can't leave.
But Tom, please, just think of your mother. Know how much she loves you. It killed her so much when you were gone the first time. I can't let that happen to her again. Come on now, let's go. Back to your mother.
All these people. This is why I hate the town. When I go out in public, all these people want me, and they want me to change to people they need the most. From a boy to a girl to I go back to a Martian, and this is my true self.
I don't know, he was coming soon, he should be here soon.
Tom.
What's wrong?
Get up. Alright, so what happened in this clip, it just shows the ability of Martians to be able to mold to what people need. And we saw him molding to a son, and a mom really needed him. Then they went to town, molded to a girl. Then he was running through a town, then a policeman saw a criminal. It's just what people desire. And because of this, he died overstrained at the end. So this is what we see in this chapter. Now, there has been an atomic war on Earth, and there's a priest and a luggage man are talking about how everyone would, if they don't know if anyone was actually going to leave. And then we see Sam Parkhill comes back, and Sam Parkhill was the one that wanted to shoot Spender really bad. He's just kind of crazy, eccentric, and he has a hot dog stand, super proud of it, and like saying, "Oh, everyone's coming to Mars." Like, he wants to be a successful businessman. And then his wife Elma's like, "Whatever, like you're annoying." And then Martian comes up and like takes out a scroll. He thinks it's a gun, so he shoots him. Then he gets into a stolen sand ship, and this is a huge chase with the sand ships with like the very few remaining Martians. And then they stop, they surround him, and he's like, "I'm sorry," but they're like, "Oh no, we just wanted to give you half the deeds to Mars." And they tell him that something's coming up, but they don't know what. And at the end of the chapter, Sam Parkhill basically sees Earth catch on fire there was like a huge atomic bomb. And the next chapter is just the same things. Different people view Earth being blown up, and now we see that the luggage store is completely empty because everyone's going back to Earth to visit the people that they care about, because now they remember, there's my aunt, there's my second cousin, like all these people that they want to come back and visit.
And the
So
next
everyone's
chapter,
leaving Mars.
the next chapter is about a man named Walter Grip, and he's been alone for quite some time, but he has all the luxuries that he could possibly want. However, no one to
This
share
is
it
on
with.
Mars.
Yes, this is on Mars. And he hears this phone ring, and he just misses it. So he calls every single phone number that he knows, and finally a woman named Genevieve Seltzer answers, but their conversation is cut off. So he drives to the parlor where she said she was at, but doesn't find her there. On his way back though, he finally finds her, but she isn't really what he was expecting. And her appearance is sort of awkward, and she doesn't like the same things he does, so eventually he tries and runs away from her. And from then on out, he never answers the phone ring ever again.
So we see that relationship did not work out. And the last man on Mars did not work out. Okay. And it, there you go. So it is now April 2026, so 5 years ago, and there's a man named Hathaway. And he goes out and apologizes to his grave of 3 people. He's like, I'm sorry, but I was lonely. And this is kind of confusing at first, but then Captain Wilder shows up, and he sees a rocket. He puts a whole Martian, ruined town on fire. Captain Wilder is here then, and they have a big breakfast together with all his family, and he realizes, Captain Wilder, that Hathaway's family looks really young. So he's suspicious, sends one of his men to explore. When he comes back, he basically tells him that he found the graves of his family. So while this is all going on, all of a sudden Hathaway passes out and dies. But what we assume from this chapter is that he built robots to fulfill that void of his family. So it just shows how desperate people are and lonely on Mars now that everyone's gone, because they're willing to build robots on their family. And then the last chapter, I'll explain that just real quick because the clip's very short. And you missed it. Before the last chapter, no, this is it. Well, there's the automatic house, okay? There's this automatic house back on Earth. And this is important historically, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, because there are silhouettes of people there. And we'll talk about what that resembles. But there's this house, and it goes on without the people being there, there's no one there. Then these little mice get all the crumbs and all the dead people and stuff. Oh, not dead people. This dead dog that walks in. So the house is fully automatic, completely great technology, and it comes in. And at the end, this post falls and the whole house catches fire. But it just shows how the technology of that time.
And the last chapter of Ray Bradbury's book is The Million Year Picnic, and we have a short.
And this is our story. This is us. And I'll explain that. What happens is this family leaves Earth on a little rocket they had for a while, and this is actually his family, our boy over there. And he, his father lands on Mars, and they go on this canal.
Yeah, but I said you were gonna show me the Martian.
They go on this canal, and they're just talking about why they're there. He's like, oh, we're just on a fishing trip. And then the dad finally reveals that they're not just on a fishing trip. They're to stay, and they blow up the rocket. They burn all the papers they had. They burn up a map of Earth, and now they're suddenly Martians themselves.
Awesome. Here, come here, this way. See something? There they are.
I don't see any Martians.
Yes, you do. Look at your reflection.
So now we are the Martians, and we came up later, and we're a family friend of them. Okay. So read the poem. I'll pull it up. Okay, so we would just like to do some character profiles. And here we have, you want to explain this?
Here we have Captain Wilder, and he mainly being one of the main focal points of the story. He was very careful in his methods with handling the situation with Spender. When they originally arrived at Mars, he allowed his men to have the party, which was the original problem there. He was quite protective of Spender throughout the whole process. He tried to compromise with him. He allowed Hathaway's robots to stay activated when he left Mars for the second time. He was very intelligent towards society, and that's why he was then sent off to Jupiter and Neptune later on after being sent to Mars the first time. He never backed down from going after Spender. He actually did want Spender to try and get away because of what he believed in him. He was the initiator of the manhunt for Spender. Throughout the whole process, he stayed somewhat lighthearted, though very serious. he was dangerous to cause, going back to his reasons to be sent off. He was empathetical with Spender's reasoning, and he then did return to Mars years later.
Spender. Okay. So Spender was stealthy. He was persevering. Sorry. He liked to explore the Martian towns, and that's when he first ran away. He isn't really understood by others why he's doing that, why he is going against them. He distances himself from them because he doesn't believe what they're doing is right. He's earnest, and he's remembered as the one who stood up for his beliefs. That was the big one.
And then what was it? That wasn't it.
Okay. Now, Walter Gripp, throughout the story in the beginning, he was kind of worrisome throughout his whole story because, one, he was, in his mind, the only one left on Mars, and then after that, he just started acting out all the roles, such as clerks and stuff, pretending to be everyone in the towns. He was very lonely on Mars, and as I said, thought he was the only person left. And then, when he did make his telephone call to Genevieve, he was quite elated to find other people to be on Mars. And he then drove back and forth across Mars trying to find Genevieve. And in the beginning, he was grateful for her company, but that changed quite quickly. And then when he found out who she truly was, he ended up running away from her. And then the second time, when Wilder comes back, he is left sitting in the middle of a highway in a rocking chair by him. He was also quite a very panicky person, and in the end preferred to choose to live on Mars by himself. Okay. Now, throughout the Martian Chronicles, there were many different literary aspects, but first focusing on Ray Bradbury's style, he was mainly a science fiction type of person, and
But for us, it's actually our history, right?
yes. But mostly what he would try to do is turn everyday possible situations into very devious ones or sinister ones. And the structure of the story that we found here is just a collection of short stories that all revolves around a central theme, in this case the colonization of Mars. The setting itself takes place mainly on the two different planets, Earth and Mars. For the different aspects of the figurative language, this quote here just mainly talks about the people and their reactions when the first fire is extinguished on Earth that they watched from Mars when the first
There's a
atomic
simile.
bomb was dropped.
And this is just another example of a simile.
Yes.
Another
There's one
example.
there.
Similar.
Yeah.
So although the writing's very like chronological, it has a lot of depth and
And metaphors. They had landed on Invent's tomb. Here's the Louisiana had died.
Just mainly talking about how this actually was indeed true with the Martians all being killed by chickenpox, and then that just talking about the swarm of all the African Americans going to Mars.
so there was a swarm.
And then the main aspects of personification came from the house at the end that had all its own actions, and then the second one when the fire broke out, talking about the fire itself. Then just little bits of consonants talking about Eula and her singing of the Earth songs, and then this part believing, Mr. XXX believing about the men and their hallucinations. And then some of the different symbols in the story were the planet of Mars. This was a truly main one, serving as the new frontier for people and coming to Mars, and also as the great destruction that people can have. The rockets were another one, serving as the new technology that people can have and coming to Mars through them. The humans themselves symbolize a conquering type of force, taking over Mars. Martians, they symbolize sort of the weaker people in the battle between the two, the humans and the Martians. And then finally, the family at the end of the novel, they were then now the new Martians.
Then, okay, so this is the main message that Ray Bradbury was trying to get across in this novel. The main theme was the progress of colonization, how people from one land go to another and they can claim it as their own through ignorance. And some examples of that, it's hard to see, but Captain Wilder, African Americans, they're all coming over, trying to take over the land as an escape from Earth. And Spender, of course, is against it. He doesn't like the colonization of Mars. Some minor themes within it, there is the pride of human achievement. For example, when a crew led by Captain Williams, they wanted a celebration, and they were like, "Oh, we're here on Mars, so we deserve some credit." And another one is desire for freedom. Anybody from Earth wants to start a new life on Mars, and this is all because the economic issues in Earth is really bad. There's atomic bombs, wars going on. Another one is nostalgia. When when Earth is at war, a lot of citizens living on Mars return back home to help with the war. And then loneliness. Walter Gribb, of course, is the main example of that.
And Hathaway also, as he builds the robots, for example.
So Bradbury, his philosophy, we believe that he was highly critical of the process of colonization in society. He thinks that greed and power motivate people to corrupt another land, in this case, a planet. And he makes it clear that it's typical of humans to take over another land. For example, Native Americans, we'll get into that with the history. So overall, he believes that people bring corruption with selfishness, and he blames ourselves for destruction. And that's about it.
Now, for the history, what we have here is just a few events that have supported this philosophy and this sort of recurring theme. And we have Manifest Destiny, and as you know, in American history, we just wanted to expand our the new frontier. We just created, first it was the West, then it was like the Philippines and foreign expansion. So we just wanted to keep going and going and going. Just more and more and more. And for Bradbury, he predicted it was Mars, and it was. People ended up going there. And people like Adolf Hitler, they.
You know the story.
He pushed some Europeans out of that area, pushed people out. And it was that fear of Adolf Hitler. In this case, it was him, and also the nuclear bombs. People were scared of basically being blown up. And then Ray Bradbury himself was born in the 1900s, and this was also an age of space exploration. In 1942, the first man-made object went into space. So his ideas were supported by this, as there was space exploration, there was fear, and there were nuclear war and bombs.
Okay. And we all created a poem from this book. It's called The Death of Mars. And it goes, "I'm living upon this planet. It's referred to as Mars. The moon shines bright, and there are plenty of stars. People call me crazy because I don't know how to mask. But hiding all of my feelings? No thanks, I'll pass. Although there are others, I feel cold and alone. A sense of abandonment, like no one's at home. If only there was someone that I could talk to, but everything seems solemn, like Mars turned blue. There's a sense of loss deep down in my heart. The sky is mourning loud, and it's falling apart. The human race keeps coming to live upon Mars, but they don't understand that life here is hard. We all know these Earthmen don't wish to be here, but Earth's slowly dying, and everyone's in fear. No laughter, no singing, no more signs of pure fun. What used to be Mars is just about done."
And just a point I want to say real quick about that is that Martians use masks to hide their feelings. And that's what went on. Because they took back Earth.
Frankenstein tomorrow. Do I need to be here early for Frankenstein?
What do you mean early? Go ahead.
To set up.
Like tomorrow morning or
Tomorrow morning.
tomorrow morning?
I'll be here. 7-ish, if not before.
And Mr. Wimmer, is it okay if we stop by and make sure all our videos are fine then too?
Absolutely.
There's a spider running around. Yeah, I know, but I was about to pick up my stuff, and then all of a sudden there's a spider running across my desk. I almost picked it up, so I was like,
That Lexi doesn't want to try. What? Lexi doesn't want to try.
We'll see you tomorrow morning with you. I'll be here. Thank you, you too. Yep, all right. Can you guys get on a Word document all the URLs for the boxes? Yeah, I have them right here. But I need an electronic copy of it because I'm going to have Mrs. Cornish put them up on the. I'm going to have Mrs. Cornish put them up on. Hey, can you take this back and get this on one page?
Indoor practice is like a third. So I guess what I'll probably end up doing is just find stuff to do here, fill that.
Oh.
Because by the time
That's
you get
unfortunate.
we'll just
Our
walk
rocket
around and cover it.
Yeah, our rocket lost its wings. Jason, do you want the little rocket?
No, I brought other stuff too, just in case.
What are we going to do with all of our stuff?
We're gonna like take
It's fine.
go over and and start tearing that stuff down.
Can I just like stand up and
No.
Yes.
Well, no, you shouldn't. Cause oh my gosh, hurdles
No, it's
practice.
fine, so that way.
That's not, you're not allowed to do that.
That way I can go down and
You can go from there to there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not sure how, but he did.
Jumped over. I'm thinking
Why is this tape so light?
Yeah, that would be my guess.
They taped it to the lights.
I'll see you
Probably
later
kept
then.
staying up because it kept falling down all day.
Alright. Bye.
Ken, rip these down now.
Things were dropping.
Hey Claire, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know if Andrew Anderson is
He did get partway. Got partway through. And then Spark noted it.
Wait, what was your question? What should I do with the paper?
If L partner O in project O. Why did principal O?
That was funny.
It was.
Nobody would ever know what you just said.
No.
So.
Gracias.
Yep.
That is not Spanish.
Ah,
that
tear.
is, wait, can you move those slightly?
All the tape stayed on.
Are you just going to walk across the room?
Who are you talking to, Andrew?
Jason.
I think the answer for both of us
Also
is yes.
Jason.
Yes?
Because right now this is pretty funny.
Jason over there.
Oh my. Don't fall. Hopefully I'll remember to do it tomorrow. Well, I want to, this is meant to. Why did you your mom is so much? Easier to use, thank you. Like,
That's what he did for the project.
And the lights, they're based on that, so they have to stay.
Stephen Payne and Ryan Snyder, if you are in the building, please report to the music office to Stephen Deal. Stephen Payne, Ryan Snyder, if you are in the building, please report to the music office to Stephen Deal, please.
I do. Keep certifying different things for your morning for
Absolutely.
all right. Also, I wanted to make sure you knew what technology we use.
Here, Megan, move this down.
But I'll try to get here. Probably a few interrupts in time.
That's fine. I have all duty period 3. I will try to stay in this area. I am.
See you
I will try to be here early tomorrow before 7. We need to do it.
Isn't this just as fun, Jason?
You guys are going to put on all the duct tape, right? Yes. Okay. This is like the game when you're little when you like very You're dying, Jason.
I am? Oh, yeah. We all are.
Yeah.
Anymore.
First one thing, then we have a video and a photo story. We have a present. So that's what we use technology-wise. Otherwise,
You want to check those things tomorrow morning? Here's something else. I need to do. Get them up before you just leave them here.
one down. That's good.
Get them up here so we don't have to worry about pulling them up.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually driving here tomorrow morning, so I'll get through driving here early. That we can.
I plan on being here by
It's only $30. All right. I'll probably be here around 7:10, 7:20.
You are welcome. So, your assessment, how do you think it went?
Time was our biggest.
Yes. Time was your nemesis.
Yes.
As in
It's just wrapped around it. I think you can.
your flash drives.
Thank you.
All right. Dare I try to jump up there and get that?
I'll get it though.
Whiteman's disease. I cannot jump.
It cannot be helped.
Couldn't you stay away?
Megan, don't get the duct tape stuck in your hair.
Did they con you to come and help?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Poor Jack.
Jack, are they paying you for this?
We should be paying them, but
Now, me on the other hand, I got time to kill me.
I'll buy you a drink.
Megan, go buy food.
Actually, yes, do that. Go
Okay, I'll be right back.
Go buy us all food.
I'll buy you.
Megan.
Buy me a drink.
I also have, wait, do I have
I have
one?
baseball practice, I read it.
Can you just use your lunch money?
How many dollars?
Megan, please don't make me do the puppy dog.
Hey, can you do me a favor, Megan?
What?
I have money with me. Do you want me to go buy you something? What do you want me to buy you? A water? They don't usually have waters. They have Gatorade.
Wait,
Any-
Joe,
any
Megan.
drinks, any what?
I mean, Gatorade.
I only have $2.
And I'll give you $1.
I'm just taking one of your dollars there. Okay, stop yelling.
I started to do the puppy dog. What always works up here?
That did not work.
I need me a Gatorade.
All right, let's try to get that paper on there. Good. All? Yeah. Fire hazard.
Yep, time was your nemesis.
Yes, it was.
That's good.
Yeah, while your plot stuff was out of this world.
It was just the.
It took a half hour, yeah. It took a half hour.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep you aware of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like every about 5 seconds I was looking at my watch.
I didn't see that.
Oh. Yeah, I kept looking back at the clock. I was like, oh, we're running out of time.
Yeah, I was kind of like this.
It's raining duct tape.
It's raining duct tape.
Oh, dear. So that's where it all went. I was wondering why we weren't pulling much more off. And then I forgot it's all over.
Well, I'll tell you. Periods 1 and 2, I was scrambling on top of desks.
Yeah, we apologize.
I heard that they were falling down.
Yeah, they were falling down.